Hey everybody, it's Theola. Death is not contagious. Death is not contagious. This is a a thought, something I've been wanting to bring to you for a while. It's been on my mind, it's been on my heart. I'm always thinking about you, always thinking about career change, always thinking about the courage and the strength that it takes to do it. And I got something that came to me that death is not contagious. And I will talk about this in a little bit. First of all, I want to welcome you here. If you haven't been here before, welcome to J Skills, the Career Change University. This is the place where you can get what you need to figure out how to go from where you are in your career to where you want to be. I do have a course. I do work with people more intensely in terms of teaching them how to do it. I come to you in this format so I can talk to you so that you can feel inspired to take some action and get more of a feel of who I am and how I think and how I work. So, okay, let's dive into death is not contagious. What does this mean? I hear a lot of people, they tell me, journalists, non-journalists, I used to be a journalist, now I'm not. So I get a lot of journalists who want to make a transition. I also get other professionals who want to make a transition. And a lot of people say to me, Theola, it's so hard right now for me at work, if they're still working, because everybody is so negative, or the environment is really toxic, or it's just a really bad situation. And here I am trying to get out, and I just feel so almost like swallowed up being in this situation. So I understand that completely, especially if you are a journalist. I can talk about my experience being the office when you're a journalist. It's called the newsroom. So I know from personal experience how difficult a newsroom situation can be. And if you have a different kind of office, just insert your office in here, because I know offices can be toxic. I've worked in toxic offices, and it can be so difficult to feel inspired and hopeful when it feels like you're walking into death every day. That's what I would call it, walking into death. You know, sometimes on a Monday morning or a Sunday morning or a Sunday night, whenever your shift is or your work schedule is, the thought of going into work, and maybe you're working from your pajamas in your spare room, but still the idea of having to log on or talk to your boss, you just think, ugh. And let me tell you, what you are avoiding is death. What it feels like to you is death. It feels like I have to endure this thing that I don't want to do, and it's really negative and it feels bad, and I am calling that death. And so what really sucks people dry when they come to me and say, Fiola, my gosh, please help me. I'm just so burned out, is that they're tired. You're tired of feeling like you're dealing with death every single day, and not by choice. I mean, there are people who work in the funeral industry. They're choosing death, right? And at some point you did choose your job. You were excited about your job. You made a choice to work there. But you didn't choose it because you thought it would be death. You thought it would be life. You thought it would be affirming to your purpose. You thought it would be affirming to your soul, affirming to your bank account, affirming to your career trajectory. And instead, it's death, 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 death. Your salary has stayed the same. It's sucking your soul versus feeding it. And your career is stuck. You're not going anywhere. Death, 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 death. That brings me to this thought, death is not contagious. It came to me when I was talking to a really dear friend about a personal matter in her life and my life. And and as I was talking to her, it came to me this scene of a funeral. Now, I do want to caution and say, if you have lost someone recently, or you've lost someone and the pain of that is very difficult, please know I'm going to talk about funerals and death, And maybe it's not time for you yet to go into that topic, or maybe you feel like it is a difficult topic, but you want some healing or you feel strong enough to endure the conversation. So I encourage you to stay on and keep listening. So let me, with that little caveat, go forward. So as a reporter, my job is to report the news. And sometimes the news is that people die and that there's a funeral. And I go to the funeral, I attend the funeral, and then I write a story about the funeral. Now think about when the president dies or a former Supreme Court justice. The funeral really can be the news story because people are coming to mourn, tell stories about this person. So it's not completely unusual for me to spend time at a funeral, and I've gone to many funerals as a reporter. And so I think that's what was in my mind. This scene of a funeral came to me as I was talking to my friend, and we were just really talking through this personal issue that she and I are both grappling with. And I had this vision because I've been to many more funerals for work than I have personally, thank goodness. I have been to some personally, but definitely more for work. And I think what I have thought about, especially when it comes to work in a funeral, is that I am there as an observer, watching the people mourn, tell stories about the person, and I am writing down what they're saying. I am writing down what happens at the funeral, and then I am going back to then write a story about it. Now, what happens when you go to a funeral? There is somebody who has passed on, and everyone else who is there is talking about this person. And sometimes you'll see funerals described as a celebration of life, which can be kind of ironic because the person is dead. But this is where the title comes in. Death is not contagious. It's not like you go to a funeral and because one person is dead, then you're suddenly going to also be dead because you've gone to the funeral. Death is not contagious in that way. In fact, at a funeral, it's kind of ironic, but there can be more a feeling of aliveness than in normal everyday situations because you are coming face to face with death. The reality is that somebody is not there anymore. And it forces you to reflect on not only the quality of their life, which is already over, but then more importantly, the quality of your own life, which you are still living. Who am I? What am I doing? What have I done? How much time do I have left to do what I want to do what I think I want to do? What I'm saying is that a funeral at this time of death can be a very critical marker of your own life. And why? Because death is not contagious. You don't have to die when someone else dies. In fact, you don't die when someone else dies. You might be extremely hurt and sad and you're in mourning. And sometimes people do die of a broken heart. That's true. After a loved one or someone they really care about dies, and then that other person follows right away. But death is not contagious. You're not going to catch death because someone else died. And if you think back to your toxic or difficult work situation, this is how you get yourself through until you land in that new career that you want. You look around at the death that surrounds you. You hear the death as you're sitting in a meeting, and you say to yourself, death is not contagious. Death is not contagious. I don't have to catch this death all around me because death is not contagious. I am alive, I am breathing, and I am committed to my life and making my life and my career what I want it to be. It's a journey to get from where you are to where you want to be. And it's easy to be focused on the destination. What's funny about life is that we're not focused on the destination, are we? Because the destination for life is death. All of us are going to die, and that's the destination of our life. That is the end result. But we don't focus on that destination. We focus on our lives. We focus on every single day, what's happening, who are we, potential, friends, going out. We focus on all these other things except the destination. And so when it comes to our career and what we want for our lives, you think, I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out of here. I'm focused on that destination. I need to land somewhere new. But that will have you missing everyday life. It will have you missing enjoying, finding some joy and peace, I would say. If you can't find joy, peace in where you are. Because if we thought about death every single day as our destination, kind of stressful, right? Not really helpful in living our lives. Just like if you're thinking about your next career as your destination only, not really helpful because you're thinking, how do I get there? What do I do? I don't know. Death is not contagious. You do not have to be sucked into the death that is around you because you can be focused on life and the possibility that you can create, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but the destination that you want so badly, you get there every single day taking another step, just like we get closer to death every day taking another step. But we don't think about death, we think about life. And when you think about your next career, you think it makes sense to focus, I need a new career, I need a new career, I need a new career. But that really keeps you stuck. Instead of saying, you know what? Yes, there's death all around me, but death is not contagious. I know that just in setting myself apart from this death, even if it's just in my mind, even if it's in my mind and my heart, and I take a minute today to close my eyes and put my hand over my heart and say very softly, death is not contagious, and take a deep breath. Before you log into that meeting, as you're sitting in that meeting, as you're thinking about starting your workday, you say to yourself, death is not contagious, and that can sustain you as you continue on this journey of life and career change. Thank you. I hope that that gives you some strength and some guidance. Death is not contagious. You can overcome it in your mind and your heart, and that's the first place that you have to do that so that you can exist in the world in a new and powerful way. All right? Thank you very much for listening, and I will talk with you again very soon.